Hello, and this is Making Sense of It. Do you ever wonder why you do what you do? Well, the Glasser Institute for Choice Theory can help us to understand why we do the things we do, such as the fact that all behavior is purposeful, which is one of the axioms. And that's what we have been doing here for the past 2 weeks, and we'll continue for a couple more this week and next week and next week. And with the help of Sharon Carter-Jackson and Sue Tomaszewski, we are looking at the 10 axioms of Dr. William Glasser's choice theory and how effective they are. So thank you for being here. You can look at the previous ones by going to the Glasser Institute for Choice Theory. So hello, Sue and Sharon. Are you ready to get started?
We are. Let me just share my screen. And
okay,
there we go. Okay,
and we will start off with, I will repeat the axioms that we have looked at so far, and then the two that we're going to look at today. Axiom number 1 is the only person whose behavior we can control is our own. And then point number 2, all we can give or get from each other is information. And we're always giving information, whether it's verbally or just the look on our face or whatever, we're always giving information. And how we handle this information is our choice, as is whether to be polite or not so polite or whatever. Point number 3, axiom number 3, all long-lasting psychological problems are relationship problems, because it is so imperative that we love and be loved, that we embrace, that we interact with each other. And so when we have these psychological problems, it is getting down to the root cause. It is because we are not relating well with self or even with others. And then point number 4, axiom number 4, the problem relationship is always a part of our present life. Even if the person that inflicted pain on us, that is causing so much problems still, may be deceased, may be on the other side of the world, may be 10 doors down. But the thing of it is, we're still keeping them with us emotionally and in our thinking and doing. So, and you can find out the ins and outs of that by going to the Glasser Institute. So today, we're going to be looking at axiom number 5, what happened in the past was painful, has a great deal to do with where we are today, but revisiting this painful past contributes little or nothing to what we need now. And so the important thing is to improve where we are now. And axiom number 6, we are driven by 5 genetic needs. And they're not wants, they're needs. It's things we absolutely need. It's basic, we have to have them. And that is to survive, which includes food and air. And we also have this need for loving and belonging, and for freedom, and for fun, and for power. So we will start off now that I've given you the axioms themselves. And Sue will explain some things for us.
Right. Okay. So here we are with axiom number 5, really emphasizing the fact that it was painful in the past, and it really contributes nothing to remember the past in a sense. And we're really looking at a present relationship. So in Choice Theory, New Psychology, Personal Freedom, Dr. Glasser said to us that here we have a chance to free ourselves of the idea that it is important to know our past before we can deal with our present. And he also told us that our task is to do what we can to correct our present relationship. So to really know what we have in the past, but to use it in the present. And now, again, being from the Quality Schools Committee, so Sharon and I, on the Quality School Committees, we saw a link between this axiom and our Quality School Committee Criteria 1. that a Gloucester Quality School is a joyful place where a positive, supportive, trusting, learning, and working environment is created and maintained. And what is helping us here is in this criteria, there is a consistent use of the helping, caring, and connecting habits, and a consistent use of the questioning process, assisting us to stay in the present, not the past. And then just to point out that there are differences in the Axiom from other sources, just to know that WGI International is stating Axiom 5 as what happened in the past is everything to do with what we are today, but we can only satisfy our basic needs right now and plan to continue satisfying them in the future. So theirs is a little more succinct, same idea, but just it probably was important to just see that there is a slight difference. All right, and now Sharon.
Okay, I'm going to be talking concerning behavioral and instructional strategies that we looked at in the quality school classroom. We will be looking at those behaviors and strategies and applying them also to any other situations in our lives. So the first behavioral strategy is using the questioning process to help us focus on that present behavior. What are we doing? What are we planning to do? And how will that help? Questioning process is what we use in schools that helps us concentrate on that doing and asking and planning sections of the WDEP or the reality therapy questions. The questioning process is just a nice name that's easy for teachers to accept and use as they use these things. So if you're thinking about a business, a committee, family life, all of these questioning process can be applied to each one of those to help us make plans towards the future, to it within the present, I should really say. The next behavioral strategy. Okay, some people really benefit from the use of daily journaling, and we found in school that this even helps some of our students when they can then recognize what is happening in their presence by going back and looking at their journal the past few days. Oh, this is what I'm doing now. This is where I'm at. What do I need to change? What would be beneficial? What might be helpful? What would make it better? And all of these are then being evaluated using that question process. I don't know, I have never really journaled a lot in my life other than on trips, but I do know that perhaps that is something that might help others. Next. Hey, again, we're talking about using class meetings to identify whether the behavior is in the present or in the past. And class meetings are what we use in school, where we kind of usually form a circle so we all can visually see each other directly. And we talk about what's happening in our classroom and what needs to be addressed, or what we finished with, where we need to be going. And again, we're looking at those relationships that are in the present and what we can do to help them be better and better meet our needs, as we'll talk in the next class.
Okay. And Sharon, we are also looking at the fact that this works wonderfully with schools, but also with businesses.
Right, exactly. And I brought that out in the first one. I haven't so much brought it out in the others, but you're exactly right. Whether it's a group within a business, a subgroup, a department, whether it's the whole business, they can have class meetings or they can journal towards that. Whether it's a family, it might be a grocery store set of clerks, Walmart clerks, they're all working to make things better today in the present.
And also there, in talking about that daily journaling, is that not only to see how I can do my job better or how I can learn more efficiently, but it's kind of self-evaluating who we are.
Yes, I would totally agree with that. And that's what I said. If you look back for 2 or 3 days, that really helps you pinpoint, that was a good day. What was I doing? And it's then helping you evaluate that as you move forward. Oh, I want to do more of that so then you can make those plans. Thanks, Mona.
Thank you.
Okay, next we're going to be looking at some instructional strategies. And again, as we've been saying, these instructional strategies, while designed for the classroom, also apply to all phases of our lives. Okay, the first one, summarizing and note-taking. So when we've gotten information and we're thinking about it, the best way to make it our own is to summarize it. Write down those key points that I can use right now today. And our note taking sometimes may reflect back into that journal that we've done. But note what worked and what didn't work. There's that evaluation again. we are using the questioning process. It just becomes inherent in us as we work through and learn choice theory. So thinking about, sometimes people do this at evening, whether they write it down in a journal or not, go back and summarize their day. What did I really enjoy today? What was most effective? What won't I do again, perhaps? That type of thing. But again, any of those work situations that we've been talking about, this can apply as you evaluate and work on maintaining those relationships in your situation. Okay, non-linguistic representations. Our communication is very small part what we actually are saying, what we are verbally communicating. But our body language and our expressions, all of that nonverbal presence, our closeness to the person or the way we back from them, all of those non-linguistic things convey much information. So once we are aware of that, whether we're in the classroom or within a work situation or family, whatever, we can be more conscious of what we're saying, because sometimes the words that we say don't match that body language, and that will always be seen. So once we are conscious of that and we can look at applying that information, our communications do really improve.
Sometimes from an instructional standpoint, we use the non-linguistic representations in note-taking. So sometimes we're asking, and there are some people who naturally do it, they'll take notes using pictures. They're drawing things. The other part of it is very often there's graphs. Very often there's charts that are there that are considered non-linguistic, just depending on how they're presented. So just an important piece there.
Right. And
Thanks,
I know,
Sharon.
thank you. I know I always developed my own abbreviations for whatever class I was taking. And throughout my education courses, many of those abbreviations traveled through them because we were using similar words. But that really enhances your note taking if you can develop that of that type, and then you go back and you know what they mean.
So in any direction, it seems like you're trying to help us get the picture.
You're right. I love your summarizing, Mona. Yes, get the picture. What is that quality world picture, as we would say in choice theory? Exactly.
Well, and to look at it just from a deeper understanding. So for learning that it's not just a surface learning, it's a deeper learning. And that's what these strategies are about.
Right. And cooperative learning. And this is very essential in schools, because when we work in groups in school and share information and work with others to learn and learn from, we are actually doing what we will be expected to do once we're out in real life, so to speak, because almost none of us work in isolation. We work together, and we need those cooperative skills in order to be successful and to assist others in their success too. So there's that give and take of working with each other. People are conscious of their basic needs, as we'll talk more about in the next part, how to use those for strengths within working within that small group, whether in your business, your home, or wherever you might be. Maybe it's a soccer field, who knows?
And that cooperative learning goes hand in hand with, oh, I didn't understand it that way. So now I see something in a different perspective than I did before.
Exactly.
And to do it in cooperation as opposed to butting heads with each other.
Right. And that's part of the way the groups are set up, so that you are will listen to each other and respect whatever comments are given. And it's okay to disagree, but we want to be able to disagree with respectfully and then work through to a common solution.
So it's really saying cooperative learning, a big part of it is learning the social skills to work together in a team, as well as in a classroom, a teacher would be creating situations in which there's a positive interdependence, so that kids on the team need each other to really complete it. In the adult world, if you think about it, when we're working on a team, we know some people are better at some things than others. So who's going to do this part as opposed to who's going to do that part? You know, who's got that? Like, we count on Mona to make a summary, to ask questions, to further clarify. That really becomes Mona's job, although we've never formally assigned it to her, but that's what she does. You know, and it's like, and so in a team, that's essentially what happens. Sometimes we formalize it, sometimes we don't. In a classroom, we try to be very formal with it, so kids have opportunities to work together in different formats.
Mhm.
So ready for the next?
Next strategy, yes.
Yep, there we go.
Setting objectives and providing feedback. Again, this goes along, and this does keep us in the present. You know, we're talking about Axiom 5, working within the present situation, and setting objectives is very much in the present. Those are the guidelines that we're setting for ourselves. Those are the things that we have evaluated that are important to us, and we want to work towards them. The feedback tells us how we're doing with meeting those objectives. Do we need to tweak them? Do we need to change something? Do we need to scratch and start all over, perhaps? But setting objectives keeps us very much in the present. By after using that questioning process that we talked about above, that helps us then to be able to clarify and set those objectives. And again, this goes across all groups within our lives that we have, and they can apply very much directly to each one.
Okay, and one more.
Okay, and I can't read it.
Generate and testing hypothesis.
Your name's on top of it, Sue.
I'm sorry, I don't know why that is. You'll have to move me.
No, your name. Okay, generate and testing hypothesis. So we've set those objectives and we've gotten feedback, and we're ready to start working for that. So we're going to test them out. We think this is what's going to happen. So we generate that hypothesis so that we can test it then. We do the testing, we work with it to see if it does give us the information or the product or whatever it is that we want to have from doing the other work that we're doing. And as you can see, this is across all groups again, no matter where you're working or within. Okay, that. And before you have something, I want to say something about our pictures. I think they're so awesome with what we've been talking about. You see many different hands there, short ones, long ones, skinny ones, a little head fatter, but it represents all people, all things. We all have ideas. We all have information to be put in. And a hand up is something that is definitely in the present. And the light bulb is that, just as we've been talking about, summarizing, using non-linguistic representation, cooperating with each other, setting those objectives, and generating and testing those hypotheses. Our brain, that light bulb represents to me that breakthrough when we are doing all of those things.
Just a reminder that these instructional strategies, not the behavioral ones, but the instructional strategies come from the work of Bob Marzano, and they're considered the 9 most effective instructional strategies that we have. And Marzano was noted to be a meta researcher. So it's not just one study, it's literally thousands of studies that'll substantiate these. So there's 9 of them, but here you just see 5 of them.
Can I ask a question now?
Please. Oh, Alice, hello.
Hi. I know, I'm kind of sitting low here at my kid's house.
There you are.
So I think my daughter-in-law would be helped by a lot of these strategies.
Mhm.
And Marzano's got a book. What, you know, if
He's got many books.
okay.
Many. All right. So we'll fill in after the recording is done.
Okay.
And I'll give you that information. He's got, yeah, he's very well noted and you can find a lot online. So I'll refer you. It's Robert Marzano, Marzano.
Got it.
Just a little just a little aside here. In looking at the 10 axioms of choice theory, they're kind of short and simple and to the point. And Sue and Sharon sharing the behavioral strategies, the quotes, the criteria that Dr. Glasser has in other books and so forth, and the instructional strategies just really begin to break it apart where it makes so much sense that we can see it and begin to apply it in our lives individually, as well as in schools and work and family and any kind of something that may need some correction.
Well, it becomes part of like, who are we and what do we stand for? That the axioms are part of who we are and what we stand for, and do our behaviors and our actions and our language, do they align with the axioms? So
Exactly.
that's how we've thought. All right, so we ready for now axiom number 6?
Yes.
Okie dokie, here we go. So Mona?
We are driven by 5 genetic needs: survival, love and belonging, power, freedom, and fun.
Okay, and then Dr. Glasser says in his choice theory, New Psychology of Personal Freedom book, therefore, besides survival, which depends a lot on our physiology, I believe we are genetically programmed to satisfy 4 psychological needs: love and belonging, power, freedom, and fun. And he says, let me just move that. Sorry, I've got my picture in the way. Each of us has a unique level of need satisfaction that tells us that this or that need is satisfied and additional effort is not worthwhile. So that's really important. So it's, what is that unique level of need? And is that need going to be satisfied? And maybe we don't need any additional work on it. And so now the quality school is seeing the link between the axiom and, again, criteria 1, that a Glasser quality school is a joyful place where a positive, supportive, trusting learning and working environment is created and maintained. And the reminder that school is a joyful place because all are able to meet their basic needs, that they do feel good. And likewise, that we do have trust built into this environment. And the differences in the axiom from other sources, WGI International states this as, we can only satisfy our needs by satisfying the pictures in our quality world. So it's a distinctly different way of phrasing it. Same idea though about the basic needs. All right, so as we look at it then, we're going to go and talk about behavioral strategies. So Sharon?
Here we go. Okay. Refining the class constitution and classroom rules or procedures, ensuring opportunities to further meet basic needs. So within our school settings, we usually do have operating methods, whether we call them a constitution or our classroom rules or procedures, but we have agreed on a way of operating within the classroom, and then perhaps within the school building, within the school district. But we see this again within businesses, whether it's the assistant group within a business, all banding together and agreeing on how they're going to work and how they're going to get their information, whether it's within the medical field and a group of nurses on a certain floor that are treating certain type of patients. They agree and develop their procedures, and this ensures them to better able meet their own personal needs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll say more about the needs in a minute. We're going to design the classroom procedures to identify what works to meet needs that are not being met. So as the instructor within a classroom, I always strive to have a need fulfilling classroom. I can't fulfill anyone's needs but my own, but I can help and enhance the learning for other students and other people to meet their needs. If I see a need that's in deficit, then I can plan activities perhaps that will help that individual, or perhaps as a group, or perhaps as a whole classroom.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that would be the same within business situation.
Mm-hmm.
In doing this we're going to stay on that, what we are doing and planning segments of the questioning process. What are we doing with those procedures to help us identify, to help us meet our needs? How are we planning activities, learning, work situations, family situations, so that we can do what we've been talking about above? And again, that those two questions from the questioning process really help guide us on that.
And one more.
Okay. Okay, my job, your job. This is something I learned way back within my training, and it's always been so helpful. I'm going to talk about the classroom situation, and then we'll apply it elsewhere. As a classroom teacher, I know what my job is. My job is to be prepared, well-rested, ready to present the information, and to know student behavior, to know cognitive learning skills, all of the strategies that we've been talking about. My job is to get this information so the students see it is useful and they can apply it. Your job as a student then is to do what you do to learn, whatever your learning methods are. My job is to provide a variety of learning methods. Knowing what my job is, knowing what your job is, clarifies all of those different roles. And we then have better expectations of what each person is going to be doing within the situation, whether it's work or classroom or family.
What we didn't note there, and is very often done, is your job isn't, my job isn't.
Right.
So
Sometimes
that's always an important one. So very often on both sides of it, the educator will say, my job isn't to do your job. My job isn't to be doing the learning. And then kids, on the kids' side, it would be, your job isn't to do my job. Don't worry about Johnny. I'll deal with him. You just take care of you, you know, and so on and so forth. So what your job isn't as well. So it helps to refine what the expectations are of each other.
right, very much so.
Okay, so we're ready for instructional strategies?
Certainly are.
Okie dokie, here we go. First one.
Cooperative learning. We visited this back on the last Axiom, and it shows up again because it's such an important strategies that we use within learning. We have those groups of usually differing abilities or different skill sets within the group so that they can make the most advantageous growth within their learning. Looking at those and looking about how our needs impact those cooperative learning skills. You know, the person that's very social, very much into love and belonging will probably be the one that says, hey guys, we're a team, let's sit down, let's get started. The one that's probably recognition and power, okay, this is the information we know, this is not what we know, what do we need to get what we need? They're out, they're all on the task, okay? The one that's freedom is probably going to be, okay, guys, we're working together, but how can we each be okay with that? You know, so that I'm part of the team, but I'm still me type thing. And the last one, of course, is fun. Many people find it is fun to be working within a group rather than isolated and working by themselves. So the fun and belonging need kind of cross each other there. And some people will say, whew, if that's this group, I wouldn't have passed the course. So that even can come into play there. But thinking about all of those things we've talked about with the needs, see how they would apply again within that work situation. How we relate to each other, knowing each other's needs, strengths. Person that needs a lot of love and belonging will need more speaking to, talking with, being with. Person's all power is, hey, what's your information you got for me today? What am I doing with the various needs? Okay, next. Okay, here we go again with those non-linguistic representation. Again, body language will override verbal comments. But as Sue said, was bringing out last time, we do have lots of information that we get from nonverbal sources. And this would apply within the work situations because all work, they have charts, they have expectations, they have bullets, there's lists of everything that are there for us that we have on our bulletin boards, we have within the components of each department there.
So for instance, for a non-linguistic representation, if you look up top On the
Mhm.
sign, it says needs, but my bet is if you see that as a sign, what you're expecting to see is stop, because that's our sign for stop sign, so you kind of look at it and go, all right, what are the things that we kind of put together to say, here's the non-linguistic representation that stays with us. All righty, so another one, and this will be the last one of the instructional strategies.
Okay, again, we're back to journaling. Journal about the meeting basic needs and strategies used presently while also planning for the future. So as I journal, I'm noting what needs I've met. And I might not be saying I met my love and belonging need by this, but boy, was it fun today when I worked with so-and-so and the two of us got that done. So there I've just related love and belonging and power recognition within my journaling. And as I look back to review that, I can look and see how I'm meeting those needs and what is working. And then that will help me evaluate what I'll take to the future.
And as you're talking about these underneath this particular axiom of being driven, absolutely driven by these needs, it helps us to see that, for example, the person with the power need that would really like to be in charge of this little cooperative learning session, that you can back down on that basic need for the benefit of the whole during the cooperative learning.
Yes.
It's, and that then later you can go back to being more true to what your particular need is in another situation that would be more than that cooperative learning together.
Right.
Well, what is interesting when we look at power, so whether it's power within ourselves or power with others, as opposed to power over others, it's the power with others that we're working towards. And it really does become the teacher's responsibility to structure the cooperative learning scenario to enable the power kid to still get the power need met without infringing on others. So it really is up to the teacher to create that kind of a scenario. Very often when we have a power kid in there, the role that we may give that kid is the summarizer.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then
or
also,
the secretary, something which will kind of, in a sense, stop the kid for at least a tad of time. It's just a thought.
right. And that can go hand in hand with all of those. And I'm seeing there again, the fun person that's becoming the clown and taking over. And it is in that cooperative learning is learning to tone down a little bit so that you can learn
Right.
multi
Right.
ways.
And I guess the idea being is it's not an assumption that you put kids in groups and say, okay, good, work together. It's not, it doesn't work that way. It really, it has to be structured. And even with adults, we find adults in a team, that very often we have somebody who will overtake the entire group, or we have people who don't say anything. It's up to the facilitator, the leader of the group, to use strategies to enable that to happen. So Sharon leading our gift board, it's like what we've seen is it works well on a Zoom call to have people raise their hand. Use the structure to raise hands so that, because we're all just chatty Cathy, so that we don't just override everybody. So happens with adults as well.
Right. And if we go back in our true to choice theory, only I can meet my needs, only you can meet your needs. But in meeting, or you meeting your needs, our goal is not to interfere with someone else meeting theirs. We can't get that happening, but we can work towards it. And if we get that point, then if we just negotiate where we're at, it usually just solves itself out. But it's very conscious of each of us knowing what our needs are and doing the activities that will meet them successfully without interfering with others.
Right. Well, Sue and Sharon, thank you very much for your help in this. And we will turn off the recording, and those that are here live will have discussion. And you can go in the Glasser Institute to look at the pre-recorded 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And then for the next 2 weeks, we will also be going over 6, 7 and 8 and 9 and 10.
7 and 8. Yep. 7 and 8 and then 9 and 10.
Yeah. So thanks and many blessings to everyone.